Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching today's video. Go ahead and hit subscribe down below if you haven't subscribed to my channel, and then turn on the notifier so every time I upload a video or put a live video out, you get notified. Today's episode, cooking with stir fry. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in today. My first ever episode of Cooking with Stir Fry. Many of you might not realize this, but I'm Filipino, and I always get asked to make Philippine food for friends. So today, I'm going to share with you one of the cuisines from the Philippines that is actually quite common here in the United States. At least I think it's common. No, it's not lumpia. Today's episode, Filipino Pork Adobo. So the one thing about pork adobo, chicken adobo, one thing about adobo period is, the Philippines, there's a bunch of islands, a bunch of different regions in the Philippines. And the one thing about the Philippines is adobo is probably cooked differently in each part of the region. So in today's episode, I'm going to show you one way that you can cook pork adobo. It's not like all the other recipes you see out there on YouTube already. This is a quick way to do it. I'm not going to marinate the meat. I'm just going to cook it up like it is. First, I want to thank my relatives in California who showed me how to cook it this way. I was cooking it a different way from how my mom showed me. And then they showed me this way of cooking it, and I think it's much faster and much more flavorful. So thank you. So the first thing you're going to need for today's recipe is pork. Pork belly is probably one of the best options you can have because of all the fat in the pork belly. It helps soak in all that flavor. Really good choice. But unfortunately, I couldn't find pork belly at any of the grocery stores here in town. So I got country style ribs, which is just as good of a choice because it's fatty. Then you need soy sauce, vinegar, peppercorn, and garlic cloves. I'm gonna cut up about 6 garlic cloves to put in this recipe. And then to top off the recipe, German chocolate cake. German chocolate cake? How did that even get here? Well, I guess you really don't need German chocolate cake for pork adobo. Let's save that German chocolate cake for later. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take the country style ribs like you see here, and you wanna cut them up. You wanna dice them up, inch and a half size cuts. So let's see if we can do the magic trick that you see in all the cooking shows. I'm gonna put the pork here, and I'm gonna snap my fingers and see if it shows up cut. Here we go. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, one more time. There you go. So I have the pork cut up. Now, I want to put the pork in a pot, and I'm going to fill that pot with water. So the one thing about pork adobo is you're going to boil the meat until it's really tender. A lot of other places or recipes that you'll see will have you marinate the meat in the soy sauce, the vinegar, the garlic, really soak in that flavor. You can do that. And honestly, I recommend that you do that. But in today's version, this is the easy Filipino pork adobo recipe. So first thing we're going to do, after we cut up the meat, we're going to put it in a pot and we're going to boil it. As you can see, the pork is now boiling. What I do while I'm boiling the pork is I also put in the peppercorn. The reason I put in the peppercorns now, first of all, is it softens the peppercorns up. You can put them in some type of cheesecloth if you don't want them, going all around the meat or being in the food when it's done. The reason why I put them in now is because it does soften them up. So while this is boiling, I'm gonna go ahead and get my garlic ready. I'm gonna use about 6 cloves of garlic for the amount of meat that I have. Well, first I'm gonna peel the garlic and I'm gonna dice them up. I'm gonna mince them up, how's that? So I'm gonna mince up this garlic. So how do you know if the pork is tender enough? I like to use the fork test. So as you can see, I'm gonna take this fork and I'm gonna stab the meat with it. So if the fork goes into the pork, say that 5 times fast. Fork in the pork, fork in the pork, for the pork. Okay. If the fork goes in the pork without any resistance and comes back out without any resistance, then it's tender enough. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drain the pork into my colander and get it ready for all the other seasons. So what I do while the pork is draining is I put my garlic, my minced garlic, in the pan or in the pot. I put my minced garlic in the pot and I stir fry them. Can you smell the aroma of the garlic? I love garlic. Once the garlic's ready to go, I put the pork back in the pot and I mix them all together. Now I might add a little bit extra garlic powder in there just to get a little bit more flavor, but that's totally up to you. Once you get the meat mixed in with the garlic really well, I'm gonna put about 2 cups of water, maybe 3 cups of water back in the meat. Then I'm gonna take about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of vinegar. No, I'm gonna use 1/4 cup of vinegar and I'm gonna mix it in there as well. And then I'm gonna take my soy sauce And I'm gonna put about 1 cup of soy sauce in with the meat. Now, the one thing I like to use in my pork adobo is I like to use oyster sauce. It really gives it extra flavor. What's funny, I don't even like oysters, but I love that oyster sauce in my pork adobo. So I'm gonna put that in there. And now, once all the sauces are in there, I'm gonna mix it all together. And as you can see, I like to check the water level. If there's not enough water in there, if that 1 to 3 cups of water wasn't enough, I might put just a little bit more in there because I'm gonna boil the meat once again now with the vinegar, the soy sauce, as well as the oyster sauce so it really soaks in that flavor. Trust me, it really soaks it in. I'm gonna put my lid on it, let it simmer for probably about another 10 minutes. Okay, maybe 5 minutes. Well, it really depends on how hungry I am. Okay, we'll go 5 to 10 minutes. I will come back and check on it periodically just to make sure there's enough water in there. If it seems like the water's getting a little low, go ahead and put a little bit more in. It's all right. And now it's done. Now here's the great thing about being the cook. Taste test it. I'll take a piece out and I'll taste test it. If I feel there's not enough soy sauce, I'll throw some in there. Now the best way to eat this dish is with some rice. Go ahead and put some rice on a plate, throw the pork adobo either on top of the rice or just on the side, and then take some of that juice and put it on top of the rice. Little secret here, if you put the meat on top of the rice, the juice is already on the rice. And there you have it. There's pork adobo. Now the soy sauce I personally like to use is Silver Swan soy sauce. There's other types of soy sauces that you'll find at a grocery store that works just as well. I personally like the flavor of Silver Swan. It's not as salty as some of those other ones. It's got really good flavor. And there you have it, Filipino pork adobo. Really easy to make. People will love it. I like to call it the Philippine version of stir fry. Before you leave, make sure you hit subscribe down below. Make sure you turn on the notifier so every time I put up a video, you get notified.